You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Where are the people in the house? Where are you hanging out? Today, okay, I see you dropping in. I was like, don't you see us live? What's happening in your end? Pan-African Daily TV and Africans worldwide and Pan-Africanese, Senegalese, Cameroonese, Guinea Equatorial, South Africans, Nigerians, all of you get here, get here, get here. You know, Brooklyn, New York, Georgia, China, Vietnam, Russia, all of you African people all over the world, gather here, gather here. There's breaking news, there's something trending, and we like to share that with you. Tonight, you can see Professor Joomaay Faye is already comfortably seated because he's the one that we have to hold accountable. He was the one that came here and told us every single thing, and we believed him, and we made the right choice for Senegal. But what's going on, people? I mean, this video just woke us up today in the news about the visiting of His Excellency Bassirou Faye of Senegal visiting France, and it's causing a lot of headache, it's causing a lot of propaganda, is causing a lot of confusion among Pan-Africanists who say, why the visit? Why you've not even been a month, or I mean, sorry, 3 months in office, and now you start visiting. What's going on, Mr. President? Anyway, we want to share a wonderful conversation with you tonight concerning the visit of His Excellency Bassirou of Senegal, who paid a visit, a friendly visit or a business visit to an organization in Paris. And incidentally, on that visit, he was invited by the French President, Mr. Macron, for coffee. So, but the images online are causing a lot of Africans questioning and asking, why are you meeting with France? You know, how could you rub soldiers with those that we're chasing out, who are part of Africa's problems, particularly France, which, you know, the African communities and Pan-Africans are actually condemning and criticizing and actually pointing a finger to why African countries are underdeveloped is because of the impact of France and neo-colonialism in Africa and imperialist and Western civilizations and stuff. So yeah, we want to find out or break it down. That's why I invited Professor Joomaay, who actually is somebody in the house in Pan-African Daily TV, yes, but also somebody in the house on the continent. So, and first, he's also a professor with so much big knowledge and a Senegalese born as well. So we want to hear from the horse's mouth what people say, right? If this is true, if this is the new Senegal that we're looking forward to, is it the way politics is conducted? But of course, some Africans are like, why not? Of course, it's the beginning of a new era. They don't see it as something that is dangerous, but a lot of anti-French, anti-French supporters on the continent of Africa, and I think they're really in a huge number, are saying no. That move, you gotta be careful. Like if you're beaten once, then you gotta be careful. Not just easy, walk in the park. So I'm here with Professor Joomaay. Professor Joomaay, good evening. I just first of all want to salute you. It's been a while, and to find out, how you're doing, how your projects are doing. I know you've been touring the continent as well, and giving lectures here and there and in the Americas. So what is happening? How are you? How's the family? How's life? How's business? How's projects? How's the continent?
Good evening, Dr. Tata. Good
Thank you.
afternoon for those in Americas and the Caribbean. Good evening to you in Cameroon. Good night to those in Europe and Russia and stuff. Thank
Hello.
you very much for the introduction. Yes, I haven't been, I have, the last time I was in the program was indeed, you were talking
Yes.
to me about my son, in African tradition, the president of Senegal today being in prison and then talking about what could be done and so forth. After that, I was in Senegal for a month and a half to be involved in his campaign. From March 12th to April, end of April, he won the elections. We were very happy, and all that. So now he is the president of the Senegalese people, and I guess by that way he is an advocate an action oriented person for the good of all African people. He is a Pan Africanist. He cannot be my son without being a Pan Africanist anyway. So that's he's my older brother's son. He was named after me. In African tradition, the son of your brother is your son. The son of your sister is your nephew or so. But in this case, he is my son, and he was named after me, Joomaay. And yes, people are very much too quick for judgment. You see, people are not in the shoes of Joomaay in order to be able to know what exactly are the determinants of his actions. You know, what people we should always remember is not the day-to-day actions, but the bigger picture, which is where is he going? In what direction does he seem to be going? That's what is more important than say, oh, no, no, no. Because, if you have a child who is trying to walk and the child falls and says, that's it, finish, he's not going to walk, you know, then you are wrong. Your child will make small steps. Some you understand, some you won't understand. You will never understand why your child fell. Because for you, it was obviously could keep the balance, but it's not the thing. But you have to know the general direction where he's going, that he indeed is going to be walking. And probably in a few years, he's going to be supporting you, when you get at old age. So the goal, the progress, the direction is what is important, not the thing. And even in terms of when you're looking at the directions, Joomaay, he did not go to France under the invitation of Macron. No, he didn't go there for a state visit to France. There is a conference organized on how African countries and others could have sovereignty in the production of medications, not depend on Europeans when something like the COVID happened. They were trying to agree. Kagame was there, the president of Congo. There were other presidents who were there, but Joomaay is more visible, I guess, because he's, people have a lot of expectation. That's why he went. And then Macron asked him if he could squeeze him in his time in France to see him. He said, yes, no problem. I'm going to be in France already, so we could see each other. And he invited him for a coffee or a lunch or something like that. That's why they met. But it was not a Senegalese visit, the Senegalese head of state going to visit the French head of state. It's like just like a president who come to the United Nations General Assembly and Joe Biden say, I would like to see you. He didn't come for Joe Biden, he came for the United Nations Assembly. So people have to understand nuances and stuff. Of course, it would be rude, it would be anti-African, completely against the teranga and the politeness of African civilization, that he goes to his home, his country, and that he asks him come and have some coffee with me, and he refuses. That wouldn't be African. So if they're asking my son to be non-African, well, I don't know, he can't do it. because he is African and he will stay African. And the politeness of African culture will always be determining how he's moving and how he's deciding.
And I also think that President Macron also receiving a guest like that for the first time would also, out of politeness, or out of the former friendship that they used to have, also invite him for coffee. I mean, I can imagine
Of
that,
course.
I have a counterpart. We mustn't work together, or even if we're going to work together on other terms. But I think the fact that he was visiting for the first time and his country, even if it is not visiting the president himself, I think President Macron is also in terms of protocol and politeness, and as a guest hosting country of that conference would say, "Oh wow! I mean, this new phase that is coming here, I would like to meet you," because otherwise, all the others he already met them anyway. So I think these are ethics, these are normal political ethics. I
But
didn't think.
so I'll tell you something, doctor, about that, okay?
Mm.
It is not politeness. Macron or his ancestors have no idea about what politeness is when it comes to state matters.
I
It's
wanted
only
you to
it's
say
it's
that.
it's
I was
only
pushing that word into your
it
mouth
it's
for you to
only
repeat.
about interest. You
Okay.
see, visiting France was not in the priority of Joomaay at all. It was not on his list, at least not for now.
Mhm.
So Macron, indeed, you know, took this opportunity to talk to him, to have him and talk to him about what he wanted, what he wishes, because every single Senegalese president, when they elected, the first thing they did is to go to France. That what did, that what Macky Sall did, that what Abdou Diouf and them did. So Jamal wasn't. His concern was not France. His concern was his neighbors. You know, his neighbors, West Africa, and then he went, to see others that are of consequence for Senegal in terms of what he wants to do, because he came to power under the mandate of sovereignty, a sovereignty movement, you
Mhm.
know, sovereignty, regaining, doing what he can for Senegal and Africa to regain its sovereignty. That's what he came to power with, you know. So these were his prayers. So Macron know the, oh God, he's coming, oh la la. So I'm gonna just now take advantage of this situation and invite him because he won't refuse, you know. That was
Mhm.
more Macron being an opportunist than being a teranga, you know, hospitable person.
Of course, thank you for that clarification, because I was actually just, trying to rephrase it and put it, if that you think is just normal ethics, because I don't see that also in that. And now that Africans have the right, they have the right to give their opinion to, like, hey, come on, give a minute. We didn't see any communique from the House of Senegal, from the communication department, that the president was going to go on a visit. We never heard anything. We never read anything like that. And suddenly we just saw pictures bumping out, handshakes here and tea parties. And people, Africans were like, wait, give me a break. I mean, you owe us the responsibility and the accountability, to at least communicate to your counterparts, custodians of the African continent, that we should know that the president is traveling in case of anything in that case. So honestly, there's been a lot of controversy.
But this was a meeting where it was planned way before Jomai came to power.
Yes.
So there is a continuum, what they continue for continuum of the presidency. If it
Hmm.
was Macky Sall, whoever had won probably would be going to France for this
Sure.
particular thing because it was a meeting planned. Senegal had committed to be there. So Jomai, as the president, is obliged in a way to go there, even though it's something good for him, for the country. But that is part of that too. That's why there was no, it was not something very, very special. It was just more like continuing what, you know, uh, the role of the state is. It looks like Dr. Tata, you're having a problem.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was just greeting my mom who just walked into the studio. And yeah. So, Professor, so Africans are right in their normal status to question and to ask questions and to share and to warn and to criticize, like, oh no, you not you, we're not going to allow, this French system that has destroyed the Africa that we know, that our young excellent would be doing that. I mean, of course, I can read some of the interactions or the reactions here, people saying be wise, a serpent, when you are closer to a serpent, you need to be wise. And others are saying you need to tread carefully, my excellency. Of course, we know. And someone even said, he said Senegal needs total independence. Now he is dining with the oppressors of Senegal. I mean, all these kind of reactions. What I love was the engagement. Whatever is said, whatever Africans are airing out there themselves, I love the fact that Africans have an opinion, Africans have a perspective, Africans are involved in their presidents, how they visit, who they hang out with, what partners, what decisions they're going to make. And even some people are saying, hey, Mr. President, can you share what you talked about during dinner? So how do you see this kind of movement
I,
about?
I, I, I have to say that it's an honor.
Yes,
It's an honor to say that people have so much expectations, you know, from my son. It's really an honor because many
absolutely.
presidents have been there, are being there. No one is saying these kind of things about them.
Yes,
You know, they have. It's really an honor. It makes me. I am very happy with these critics. Really, really thank all of them for being so demanding. You know, about President Jomai. You know, because it means that for them, he matters to them. They
sure.
are proud of him. They have expectations from him, and they don't want those expectations to be disappointed.
Mm.
That is fantastic. You know, of course, all of these, he has people who are in charge of watching what people are saying about the presidency in the internet. You know, not only in Africa but throughout the African world, because he want to make sure that he is really hearing from African. When I sat with him, what I told him is that there's one thing, you know, just humility. Humility and listening. Those two, make them be your companions every single second you're going to be president of Senegal. You know, humility and capacity to listen. I am not talking about hearing people because hearing and listening are two different things. You know,
Absolute.
here when you hear, you don't pay any attention necessarily, but when you listen, you are paying attention, and you don't have a preconceived attitude towards what you're going to be hearing. You want to know what it could bring. You know, so these critics are really fantastic. It means that all along his mandate, when Joomaay called on them to reinforce Pan Africanism, they will be answering.
Yes.
And that's what really I'm observing for myself, because what President Jomai wants to do, his companions, what they want to do, they can't do it without Pan Africanism being in action. Because sovereignty in itself, okay, sovereignty for Senegal is an illusion. Sovereignty only for Cameroon is an illusion. Even
Yes.
sovereignty for Burkina Faso, as I have found out when I was in with Thomas Sankara, was an illusion. We thought sovereignty under Kwame Nkrumah for Ghana was an illusion. You know, this is why Kwame Nkrumah was so diehard about African unity. You know, so everything that they want will have to get Pan-African mobilization. The African world has to be mobilized. So that they are so keen about watching his moves, criticizing, mean that they care and that they really will be working. He could expect that they will be working with him to get to Africans to where they want to get. It's positive. It's all positive. Joma is not like Macky Sall who think that when you criticize him, that's it. You don't like him. No, critics for him is because you like him, because you want him to do better. That's why. And let these critics keep coming on. You know, all I ask is that when people criticize, let it try to have a a constructive criticism. You see, do not insult. Just constructive criticism. Criticize for your love of Africa and African people. Don't criticize because of your personal anger or anything like that. You know, let the love of Africans, you know, be the guide of your emotion in terms of how you criticize, formulating your criticism. That's all you need.
That's very true. If it's about Pan-African Daily TV followers and fans and Pan-Africans that I know, you can be sure on that, that the lectures you and your counterparts, all the professors and sorry, the speakers have been giving here are not falling on deaf ears. Pan-African Daily TV fans are matured. And when they post a question, even here in our chat, you will never see anybody disrespect the guest or the audience. Never. If you watch the way they chat, the way they communicate in this community, everybody knows this is the best ever community when it comes to dealing with hard facts and strong talks that people don't have the courage to put it. Pan-African Daily TV fans and followers, they deal with it with a lot of respect because the energy that we have here on the Pan-African Daily TV is another one. You know,
Absolutely.
we have woken up to understand that we must bring something on the table, not just to sit and speak. And most of the engagement, like I can say, was not actually just a matter of critique, but it was just opinion, people who shared their thoughts. Because of course we asked about that post and that the audience should share what they think about that. And it was necessary because without that, like you say, we will not know how active Africans are. But for you that are joining us, this is what we're talking about. You must have seen this post. I love this one because we took it directly from the page of His Excellency Joomaay Faye. We took it directly from his page. It's not like it's a propaganda message or something that people need to look out for. I want to stretch it a little bit so we can see it here in a full screen. You know, he said, when he posted and the greetings, you look at the smiles and stuff, and look at his hand position. If you know diplomacy and you know power and you know equality, even in the body language, if you study that, you will see that it was not a president that was booing or bowing down like others were doing or coming down out of what. You could see that correlation. Look at the hand position. Of course, Mr. Macron, like the host, puts the other hand on his hand. That's okay, but look at the position of his left hand where he gives him a grip.
You know what it's saying there, Susan?
Of course, I know.
Macron is saying, begging, don't leave me, please don't leave me, please don't leave me. And Joomaay say, don't, no, it's okay, it's okay. We'll
Yeah.
see about it.
I mean, of course, this is the personal diplomatic communication through body language techniques. Those are things that we know hand to hand. You can look at their position and you would really say if this was a puppet president or bowing down or, you know, just the mimic and and the political body language was not there. So we can already roll that out. But he said, after attending this meeting at the CAVI conference on accelerating vaccine production in Africa, I was invited to a friendly lunch by President Emmanuel Macron. We talked about the long tradition and quality of relations between our two countries and expressed our common desire to work on their renovation by adapting them to the current changes. For me, when he said, well, the fact that he put this message out on his page, he already anticipated that it was not normal that the audience would see him like that. So he took upon his responsibility as a head of state, as a statesman that is accountable to the people of Africa, not only to the people of Senegal, but to already convey the message that, hey, please, before you get this information wrong, this is what happened. Okay. And so, what can you say about that? I love it.
Well,
I like.
the fact that that message is in English, because Senegal is French. If he
Yes.
was just talking to the Senegalese, if he was only concerned about the Senegal, he would just do a French one and that's it, for, uh, but the
Yes.
fact that he knows that most Africans, the majority of Africans actually have some sort of English, you know, and that message is very important there. And then it's in base of transparency.
Yes.
He wants to be transparent. He is not hiding things. He tell you this is what I'm doing. What you see is what you get. Another thing that Susan that people don't realize also, when the president arrived in Paris, he refused to go to those expensive hotels. He did not go to a hotel. He went to the apartment an apartment that is in the Senegalese embassy in France, because he doesn't want to spend money uselessly that is needed in Senegal. You know, everyone was shocked, but that's where he went, to the embassy's apartment. You know,
But Professor Joomaay, you're bringing me back to something. This is a president that came, and I mean, for the first time, what I see, he declared all his belongings, even the amount of money that was on his account was declared, the houses that he has, the possessions that he earned out of his job, okay, and everything was declared. I mean, for the first time, I saw that happening on the continent of Africa. Is that correct?
yeah, I mean, yes, in Senegal, I think that Macky Sall did declare what he had, also. I think that Macky Sall did. But, you know, he, the amount of money that he had, you know, and if you compare it with Macky Sall and them, even though no one know where that money come to Macky Sall from, you know, uh, a president who came to power with debt, he owes more than he what he really has, you know, and he will not intend whatever he doesn't earn. He is not going to take money for to pay for that. Some others would have just, say that's it, finished, and people will offer them to erase the debt. He will refuse if they do, you know,
Mm.
because what he doesn't earn is not his. What he doesn't earn is not his. It's for the
True.
Senegalese. You know,
Okay, I
it's
think the next part of the conversation, of course, there will be another things. You still even owed us lectures on his presidency, his leadership as first your son, and secondly as the president of the whole nation of Cameroon, of Senegal, but also the president of Africa. Now that we're speaking, I just want to use a shot. Just give me 1 second. Let me give a shout out to the community that I'm seeing here. Very
sure.
vibrant, very active. Oh my God. I want to greet you, Mr. Gerald Babot, that is watching me from Austria. Thank you very much for being here. Paul, Mr. Paul, I think you're from Nigeria. You were the first guest here. Oh my God. My Honorable Fukan Ali, thank you so very much. Imhotep is in the place. Jing Jing, thank you. I salute you for being here. And oh my God. S.A. Smith, thank you. Mr. David Wine, Cheryl, of course. The Guardian of Pan-African Daily TV, Women is right here. Cheryl, thank you so very much. And Mr. Brown, I think you said you're watching us. Mr. Paul Brown, you're watching us from Uganda. Are you still in Uganda? And the many of you that are watching us through Facebook, I'm so sorry I cannot see you on this dashboard right now, but I see your numbers are growing up tremendously. I want to salute you and I congratulate you. And please pay good attention to the lectures with Professor Joomaay on the situation in Senegal, and the current president visiting France is causing a lot of emotions on Pan-African Daily TV followers and fans who are questioning, why should he be meeting France right now? Africa doesn't need France. Africa is to focus, take care of his stuff and business before he goes out on visit. So that's why we are here on this conversation. So if you're new, please make sure you are clicking, you're subscribing, and you're sharing to invite every other person. Even if you're not new, that's just your purpose of being here. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you, Mrs. Banka. Said Dr. Ma'ad. Thank you so very much. So we continue the conversation for those that are joining. We're talking about the visit, the sudden visit, or not the sudden visit, but the picture, the image that is circulating on Facebook about the visit of the newly elected breed of the new African presidents, as we can see. Shaking hands with Macron for for Pan-Africanism is no go, no go. Even just passing around him, no, we don't want to hear that. So that's that. But Prof,
Yes.
another issue that I want us to watch, I have a short video about how the French reporters took this story and reported it. I'm so sorry, it is in French, but I think you and I can translate it because we're both Franco-English, Franco-Anglos, or English speaking and French speaking. So we'll be able to show it to the audience. But those of you that already speak French and understand French, please pay attention as I share this video, because it is also part of the conversation that we have to carry here tonight. So where is the lovely video right here? Okay, so let's go, people.
Faye, le chef de l'État sénégalais, en a aussi profité pour rencontrer son homologue français Emmanuel Macron à l'Élysée. Une première rencontre que l'on va décrypter avec vous, Myriam Amlal, qui nous fait le plaisir d'être en plateau ici. Bonjour Myriam.
Bonjour Gilles.
Accueil, disons, cordial.
Oui, très cordial. C'est assez différent de ce qu'on a l'habitude de voir quand un chef d'État africain arrive à Paris. Plus de complicité, plus de... Là, c'était très cordial, mais je pense que c'est très, très symbolique des nouvelles relations qui vont s'instaurer. Des relations, finalement, comme disent les Sénégalais, gagnant-gagnant. On vient pour faire des affaires, on veut être traité avec respect. C'est ce que disent les Sénégalais. Et c'est ce que disent d'ailleurs d'autres pays africains. Et on a vu cet accueil, ce déjeuner. Le gouvernement sénégalais a précisé à travers la télévision publique qu'il ne s'agissait pas d'une visite officielle, qu'il était là pour le forum et qu'il en profitait pour rencontrer le chef de l'État. Il y avait quand même une délégation importante, donc on va parler business, mais toujours avec cet esprit de gagnant-gagnant. Et c'est ce qu'incarne finalement Bassirou Diomaye Faye, le président sénégalais, le tout jeune président sénégalais. Et quelque part, on a envie de dire que c'est ce que souhaitait Emmanuel Macron depuis le début de sa première élection. Il souhaitait changer ses relations avec l'Afrique, enterrer la France-Afrique, parler avec des présidents jeunes comme lui. Il l'avait dit lui-même, j'ai pas vécu la colonisation ni la décolonisation. Il faut tourner la page, il faut passer à autre chose. Et ça a été très compliqué. Il a été confronté à la réelle politique. Il a voulu aller plus loin avec ce sommet Afrique-France à Montpellier, où il a invité des jeunes de la diaspora, des activistes, des gens engagés. On se souvient de cette jeune burkinabé qui avait interpellé le chef de l'État dans un dialogue très franc, en lui disant, Monsieur le Président, les relations entre la France et l'Afrique, c'est une marmite sale, il faut la récurer parce que plus personne ne veut manger dedans. C'était un échange très direct. C'est ça que veut la jeunesse africaine aujourd'hui. C'est des relations décomplexées. Il n'y a plus d'histoire coloniale. C'est fini. Personne ne l'a vécu. C'est une nouvelle génération qui est très jeune, qui est représentée par Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Mais finalement, ça arrive un peu tard pour le chef de l'État parce qu'il a face à lui enfin un président qui est jeune. Emmanuel Macron a 2 ans de plus que Bassirou Diomaye Faye. Bassirou Diomaye Faye a 44 ans. Mais ça arrive dans un contexte très compliqué pour la France, d'abord sur le continent africain. La France a été chassée du Sahel, du Burkina, du Niger, du Mali. C'est compliqué aussi en Centrafrique. Et il y a ce sentiment anti-français qui monte. Et à côté de ça, il y a le contexte politique en France, vous en avez parlé, la dissolution de l'Assemblée nationale voulue par Emmanuel Macron qui risque d'amener au pouvoir le Rassemblement national, un parti d'extrême droite. Donc on sait très bien ce qu'on pense dans ces pays-là de l'extrême droite et c'est très mal vu. Donc on arrive à un moment où finalement Emmanuel Macron est moins à l'aise pour justement ce face-à-face avec ce jeune président.
Emmanuel Macron, politiquement fragilisé, face à Bassirou Diomaye Faye, qui commence à se faire un nom aussi sur la scène internationale.
Absolument. Personne n'aurait parié sur Bassirou Diomaye Faye quand il est sorti de prison. On se disait, oh là là, il est jeune, il n'était pas pressenti. C'était Ousmane Sonko qui était candidat. Et je me souviens, ici même sur ce plateau, j'avais interviewé une partisane et membre du parti du PASTEF pour lui dire, mais qu'allez-vous faire si Ousmane Sonko ne peut pas...
Okay, I think, yeah, she
I want to start with the end.
Yes,
what she
please.
said, because she said that the pastef people, what she was going to say, that when she interviewed that person, They said there is no plan B. There is only one plan, and it's going to be Usman Sonko or nothing.
Yes.
Of course, that was the message that Pastef was giving to people. That inside, that was not the case. They had already decided that if Sonko cannot go, that it will be Joomaay. Already, Usman Sonko, they had already decided. They knew exactly what they would do because they knew that Macky Sall, will do, and friends, under the guidance of friends, will do anything possible to stop them from getting to power. So they were just focusing Macky Sall and Sonko because what they wanted Macky Sall to think is that, okay, my only problem is to just keep Sonko from being a candidate. Once I keep him from being a candidate, that's it. I'm done. The way is clear. And they follow him in that idiocy. And then there's no option. There's not option. You only want Sonko, 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 Sonko. That for that reason, he did not do anything when the Supreme Court was selecting the candidate, accepting the candidate. He didn't put any pressure on them, so they went the right road, and there was nothing that kept Joomaay from being a candidate, because if Macky Sall knew that he will do the trial and then make Joomaay impossible and unable to be a candidate or anybody who is close, So this is why they insisted on that and insisted on that. They were kind of like getting Macky Sall, hoodwinking him. So he doesn't know exactly. That's why it was. But these journalists don't understand the intricacy, the inside of the thing, and they just know that's not true. It was not, because Usman Sonko knew that it was not about him. It's about the projects that they want to submit to the Senegalese and African people in changing Senegal and Africa. Whomever is spearheading or heading the execution of the project, it doesn't matter. What matters is that the project, that this person is ready and understand and is willing, it is understood to be able to chaperone the execution of this project. That's where the couple other things that they said also is that, they recognize at least France is in trouble in Africa. French imperialism is in serious trouble. This is why Macron is really kind of scared, worried, and having a legitimately elected, not a coup d'etat person, come to power in Senegal is really something that could give more legitimacy to the others also, to the struggle against French imperialism in Africa. And that they would worry. But there's a contradiction here because they said that Macron had wanted to meet Joomaay since he was elected. At the same time, he said that Joomaay is the one who took the advantage of being there to ask to see Macron. But that's not, there's a contradiction there. It is not this the other way around. It's Macron who took advantage of Joomaay having to be in France for other business, who took advantage of that and then invited him, not for hospitality, but because he needed to talk to him, for a lunch. That's the thing. He's looking for a young president. Macron doesn't care. You see, the situation in Chad, okay? The situation in Chad, the president of Chad is not any older than Joomaay, okay? But the situation in Chad, where there was a democratically selected by the constitution person who was supposed to replace Idris Deby, that was supposed to replace Idris Deby, but they scared him. And they told him, no, and then he resigned because he was the president of the National Assembly, who was supposed to be the president and organize elections. They scared him. Macron himself, before they even made a decision, Macron recognized, the son of Idris Deby or his nephew to be the new president of Chad. So he doesn't care about who is there, as long as you are in acquiescence, there is no one for Macron liked better than Alassane Ouattara. There is none, there is none. or Paul Biya, even Paul Biya sometimes because he's old, he doesn't care sometimes anymore, he says things that are in his mind. It's different. But, it's not, or to the contrary, you know, if it was the case, they would not do everything possible for Joomaay to not get to Pastif, their party, not to be in power. They did everything that they can. Everything. They started by accusing them of being Salafist, terrorist. That Senegal is going to be a Sharia country, you know. you know, you know, yes, 95% of the Senegalese are Muslim, but you're not going to see Senegal become a Sharia country. That's not in the fibers of our culture to begin with. Tolerance is there. People, what they believe in, what they believe in. That's their problem. It's not the problem of the state. So everything was done. Even the candidate that Macky Sall had chosen, he had to go to France to ask the France Afrique section their authorization. And it's by talking to these people and bad mouthing Macky Sall that he he got Macky Sall against himself. So they end up fighting them. So in a nutshell, the interview is normal for the French journalists because they always say things in the advantage of France. That's normal. They don't care about objectivity. They care about really meeting the interests of France. And that the whole thing about this tape. If you look at it, the nuances and all that stuff. Yes.
Yeah, but of course, that's the reason why the media for us too is very important. When we catch such news and such propagandas going or circulating the continent, you would not see it. Even the conservative media in some African countries will be saying the same thing that the French media is saying, because of course, they only just pick the sources and buy news articles because they're lazy to work or research, or they still don't have their Pan-African minds. But one key thing that, as she said, and I was so keen on that when she said, "Oh, this is a beautiful period where Africa is going to be determined by young Africans, and young Africans don't care about colonization. Young Africans are saying it is over. We want to move ahead." And I'm like, wait a minute. That's the point where I called, and I'm like, no, this is not going to work. On the contrary, we are sending this message to you, friends. On the contrary, this is the time where you have to start getting ready to pay reparations, because these young Africans that you're saying will not care about Africans are the ones that will hold you responsible for all the crimes that you ever did through slavery, through colonization. I don't know why you can even just dream and think that this will not happen. I mean,
absolutely.
And
No, but there's another dimension actually I forgot to mention just now. She was saying that Macron has always wanted these things for Africa, and they even talk about that bogus conference on Pan-African thing, France, with a young African using Achille Mbembe, your countryman, who has become a fool of himself, to... Yes, as long as they are on the driver's seat in reorganizing the relationship between France and Africa, France is 100% in. But they don't want Africans to be on the driver's seat of that reorganization. And that's what Joomaay is all about. Africans must be on the driver's seat of this reorganization of this relationship. Retooling these relationships. It's African who must be on the driver's seat. How do you want to relate to France? How do you want to be connected to Germany or to Russia, to others? We decide, not you coming at us and telling us, okay, this is it, you take it or you leave it. And if you take it, we are fine, my interest is satisfied. If you don't take it, you're going to go to hell, like what happened with Sékou Touré and De Gaulle in 1958. When De Gaulle said, yeah, you want independence, then take it. When they said we take independence, they took off every single structure that was in Conakry that was built there in France by time of colonization, And it's Kwame Nkrumah who saved Sékou Touré by giving him $10 million, which was a lot of money then, in order to keep the Guinean state afloat. And when Guinea started to make their own money, De Gaulle and Jacques Foccart at that time made loads of false money, Guinean money, plain loads of money, and dumped it in Conakry, through people here and there, making the Guinea franc plummet in terms of its value, creating that's not what they want. They don't want Africans to be on the driver's seat of the changing of these relationships. They want to be, of course, that's understood for more than a few hundred years now, you know.
We know that the new generation of the awoke Africans is not going to be the same again. It won't. I mean, we can already see it. Whether these other new presidents that are coming would still somehow, because of the responsibilities. You remember when we did the lectures on the neo-colonialism in Africa, and we talked about the inheritance, the first leadership that inherited the problems that the colonizers had left for Africa. And so that would actually cause the kind of problems that we still see them today after approximately 70 years of independence. They're still struggling to rebuild those structures, right?
Absolutely.
And so it is the same thing that we can also see, that even this new renaissance leaders that are coming and trying to hold the colonizers responsible, or even say, you know what, just give us a break. We want to figure out what we want for ourselves, what kind of partners we want. Then we'll think about what we can do together in that case.
Well, but the thing here is that this new leadership that is coming, they do know exactly what they want. You see, they learned the lessons from the previous leaders. Now they understand the limits, the difference between independence and sovereignty. That's why they don't call them independence movements. Okay? They call themselves sovereignist, because they know that sovereignty there is one extremely important element in sovereignty, which means the wherewithal to implement the policies you choose for yourself. Independence, you do have the liberty to choose your policy, but it doesn't give you the wherewithal to implement these policies. These new generations, and also, you see, when Kwame Nkrumah could see what would happen to these countries, but a Senghor, a Nyerere, and the others could not see really what would happen to these countries. They didn't know, they didn't understand about the non-viability of a state. One. Number two, they didn't have also a youth movement which is so aware of the damages caused by neocolonialism. They did not, Kwame Nkrumah didn't have that, and Joomaay and them, they do have that, So the conditions are ripe, really ripe, for the redefinition from a sovereignty perspective of the relationship between France and the African countries. The current, the tide is in favor of Joomaay and them. The tide was not in favor of Kwame Nkrumah and Modibo Keïta and Sékou Touré. It was against them. And that's a big difference. That's what they call in philosophy, when the objective and subjective conditions of a revolution, of a change are here, then it is possible to have the revolution. Meaning, like when people realize that the system is no longer working for us, that's the objective conditions. And the subjective is when people are ready to change the system. They feel that I'm ready now for a change, And what you're seeing in Mali, what you're seeing in Niger, what you're seeing in Central African Republic, in Burkina Faso, all of these things about Russia, they don't want Russia, like I said here before. What they want is sovereignty. They are actually, sticking it to France by having those flags that they're having is just like an action, sticking it to France, stick it to France. I have the flag to get France to understand I don't want them anymore. I want something else, And people like Joomaay coming in power, there are two things in it. Number one, it shows to the young people here that change is not going to come easily, because a lot of people, more than 80 people died for Joomaay to get to power, killed by Macky Sall's police and stuff, More than 2,500 people were in jail for year after year, at least 1 year, Many of them are right now physically incapacitated. It's a lot of sacrifice that came through. But the most secure change is the change that is wanted by the people, not the change that is wanted by a person who think that they know what the people want. The democratic process is important for the African countries in order for change to really happen. All the eyes toward Joomaay is because he has a legitimacy. 54%, more than 54% in the first round never happened. It's a plebiscite for him because the people wanted to change, because the people understood Joomaay and them are serious and they are ready for sacrifice. The lesson that other Africans need to learn is that change is not easy. You have to work for it. Sometimes people are going to die for it, but it is possible. If the people see you as ready to really sacrifice for change, they will support you. And that's what they did with Joomaay and them.
That's very correct. That's very correct. You said something concerning the Nyerere, Mwalimu Nyerere's period. I read something very interesting, and you can see those effects today. How after independence, all the countries actually were thinking, what are we going to do now to bring back the one Africa system that we had? But it was not possible because of the footprint of the colonialists. And most of the leaders that took office were the ones that were either educated in France or Britain, right? And so, but he had chosen not the state approach to individual countries or the one state approach, but he chose the linguistic approach. And you see why somehow Tanzania is actually deep rooted in Kiswahili, because he focused on language as a unifying factor, as most of them were looking for. So to you, that move that he did, how did it impact the whole of Africa? None, but Tanzania, isn't it?
Well, Nyerere he was one of the frankest president Africa ever had.
Yes.
What you see is what you get. The man couldn't lie. He just the truth. What he believes is what he's saying. He doesn't shout it. He doesn't do it. At that time, Nyerere believed that the union for East Africa, there has to be some sort of similarity between us for us to unite. And the US, he was working tirelessly on the East African community, really. The only thing that foiled him are the old men of the Kikuyus. And I'm sure that PLO would probably say something about this. The reason why, that federation did not go on is that the Kikuyu said that to Kenyatta, if you leave, then the Luo will be taking power, and we won't accept that. So you cannot be the president of that union and leave Kenya here. We want Kenya. Forget about that union. And that's what Kenyatta did. But besides that, in 1997, credit to him, he came and said that, I was wrong. Kwame Nkrumah was right. Continental unity is the only way out for Africa. The other thing that happened also, Nyerere was hoodwinked by the Senghor and them, in a way that this African socialism. Nyerere was he was an African nationalist, and Nkrumah and them were seen as from foreign ideologies, Marxism and all of that. Nyerere, Senghor and them say, okay, we want African socialism. And that was very attractive to him. And the second part was the independence. The countries that were not independent yet in Africa were mainly around him. So they said that we're going to support you in getting these countries independent if you come with us on our group. Those factors are really why Nyerere went with them, not with Nkrumah. But this book here that I have here, they call The Sermon. Le Sermon. Okay. It is the speeches of all the African presidents who were in Addis Ababa in 1963.
Wow.
All of them, you know,
Wow.
their
Where can we
declara-
read this book?
their declaration, their declaration at the thing at the what you call it,
Yeah.
at the assembly,
Yeah.
there, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and among these heads of state, huh, there are all of them recognize unity is important, okay, but they
Mm-hmm.
thought that it was too soon, you know, because for some of them it was opportunistic reason. They want to just taste power a little bit more, you know. Most of them wanted to taste power, you know, and so on and so forth. And then France and England were also there to foil Kwame Nkrumah's plan and stuff. But when you read the speech of Milton Obote, you read the speech of Modibo Keita, you read the speech of Sekou Touré and all of them, and it's really they are, you have give you goose pimple on how they knew that unity is the only way possible. But at that time, like I'm saying right now, uh, the states that were legated by colonialism were not tried yet to see if they could satisfy the basic needs or the basic demands of independence. They weren't
Absolutely.
tried yet. So, you know, they could, there are people, still believe, like Cote d'Ivoire, like others, that we could be better off not being united with others who are a little bit poorer than us. We would be better off if we go by ourselves. So all of these things, Kwame Nkrumah has all those obstacles, subjective obstacles. It's later on that they realize that, oh wow, this is not going to work. Now, our generation knows, and Jomai's generation, particularly, it knows that these states are not viable. And that's a big, big, huge difference. And this is why, see, like I said, the criticism that people are criticizing Jomai is really a positive thing. You know, it's an honor. It's really it even make it more evident to me how much importance they give to his presidency and how much what kind of role they giving it in freeing Africa from neocolonialism and advancing the cause of African unity. They really, those are what the significations are, and it shows that the environment it's positive. You know, Kwame Nkrumah throughout the continent had support here and there, but it was very minimal. The attention that Jomai get now, Kwame Nkrumah didn't get it in the continent at that time. The expectations are different. You know.
That's so true. I mean, this is another question. Like, you actually was the person that knew Thomas Sankara. You were the person that knew him, close to him, been with him, spoke, ate together, stayed with him. I mean, if you look at Traore, Ibrahim, and you like people are just like this, the reincarnation. If you compare such personalities, of course, they cannot be one on one, as we know. I mean, what type of a person was Thomas Sankara? It's just so uneasy to get. Sometimes I had landed his sister and I wanted to bring her on the show. I mean, like a sibling, a blood sibling of Thomas Sankara, because I believe in blood. And
Are you talking about Paul?
no, a sister of
I
his.
see the sister. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah.
So, what kind of a person can you actually tell us he was? And
Well, Thomas, he was like kind of like his simplicity was kind of like, when you want to meet him, you have all this expectation, this big, like bossy and stuff. You come, you look at it, it's like another just big guy, like your friend on the neighborhood. you know, he doesn't act like president. He doesn't care whether he's. The only thing that you could say, see, is just he felt like so responsible. He felt like the whole Africa, you know, Like Adonis, he had Africa on his shoulder. That's like what he felt. He is always. But Sankara was a very clear person in terms of what he knew he could do. Okay, he knew he could mobilize against imperialism, which is what we're talking about now, ending neocolonialism. Okay, he also could rally people around good governance, how to manage the resources of his country, because he was a very realistic person. Yes, I have to say that he was not confronted with the same problem that Traore is, because at that time there were no terrorists on the border and stuff. But at the same time, France was a terrorist state too, with us, because they did every single possible thing to put down the system. But Sankara was the simplest person, really the friendliest, the most less assuming person. But he was a focused person, always kind of like, if you were with him, it's like, you will think yourself that you're lazy, because when sometimes you want to rest. For him, resting is not really an option. you know you know he is working and working and working, and that at the you will feel like there is something missing in you. How could he get all this energy with all of these things? And I'm here, younger than him. I want to, sometimes you're in a meeting, you want to fall asleep, you fall asleep, and he never falls asleep. Make you feel like there is something wrong with you, because he's full of energy, full of energy all the time. But at the same time, very simple and cordial and friendly. Big brotherly, really, to me, But he knew how to simplify, how to translate what the government needs to do in simple language. All his speeches ended with imperialism down, corruption down. That's it. All. And in the mind of every Burkinabe, imperialism and corruption were the bad thing. He simplified a lot of things in the mind by simple languages and stuff, but he was very he was very kind to me, I guess, like what he said, that.
Wonderful. I mean, of course, the way you put it, and I mean, from a personal contact as somebody who is actually really close to the systems and this past leadership, I think you are really in the better position that is mediating between both, particularly the fact that he's your son. I mean, you
Yeah.
should be worried about
The interview, when I got
concern.
and during the election, they gave an interview to the journalists, and I told them, if anyone want to forecast what the presidency of Joomaay will look like, go study the president of Kwame Nkrumah and Thomas Sankara. Go study them. In between, it will be something in between, because he indeed, really like what those people did, you know, uh, in terms of their commitment to Pan-Africanism, African unity, but also in terms of the transparency in the management of the national resources. Kwame Nkrumah, you could not imagine him, you could not imagine him being corrupt. Thomas Sankara, no way. Joomaay, there is no way you could corrupt him, you know. But so their agenda are exactly the same. If you want to really, but the difference, like I said, is that Joomaay is in a context, African context that is more favorable than Thomas and Kwame Nkrumah were. So this is why I have more hope that he will be able to succeed where they did not, where the obstacle was too great for them to overcome them. You know, they have, Joomaay has the African youth with him, and that's extremely important. They are the majority on the continent. All that need to be done is organize that youth, how to get that youth, to push, to help him push towards a more united Africa. And the youth is ready.
Yes, thank you. One other thing that I think it's very okay for us to say here and to get the youth thinking about it or are Pan-Africans.
Mhm.
I mean, in any way, as the president and the leader of a state of Africa, I think but it will come to the fact that um, at some point, Joomaay, Excellency Joomaay would have to meet with Mr. Macron.
Mhm.
At some point,
Mhm.
this leadership mean. So what I'm trying to say is Africans, Pan-Africans in particular, should already get used to the fact that it is okay that they will meet, but if they trust the leadership of the person that is in place, they would be sure of the negotiations that will come out of that. Is that correct to say so? At some
Well,
point in
I mean,
time, because if
it's
it's
like I said in the beginning.
wait, hold on, if just seeing a picture if just seeing a picture of Basiru and Mr. Macron already spins out something. I mean,
Yeah,
is it going?
I can understand the people. I can understand truly, doctor. I can really understand them. In my culture, they said that if a blackbird killed your uncle with their strong beak, you know, if you see something black floating in the air coming towards you, you will not stay there. You will run away. you know. Uh, and in French, they say chat échaudé, craint l'eau froide. You know, if you threw, hot water on a cat, the next time you throw anything that has to do with liquid towards the cat will run away before the liquid get to them. You
That's
know,
true.
Africans are used to seeing their president run towards these people, and like they'll act like they are their slaves. And it's really normal for them. When they see Jomai meeting with Macron, and they don't know the details behind why they're meeting and how they get to meet. Of course, it's normal. And like I said, I thank them for that because it only shows how much they care about my sons, actions, and their impact on the destiny of Africa. That's an honor. That concern is not like something that, it's good. It's really good. That criticism is good. It's important. It will keep Jomai on its toes, and the people who are with him, you know. It will keep all of us on our toes. It's good. It's nothing negative about that. Now, because people don't know the details, okay? They are only acting based on what they have seen in the past and happen. And they only have that, you know. That's the only thing, the only data they have is the past, behavior of African president toward France, toward Macron, toward French president. That's what they have. And people could only judge based on the data that they have. They don't invent it. Psychologically, that's what is happening. Now, Jomai has to look at that critic, people who are with him have to look at that critic as a constructive critic, you know, as something that is the desire only for him to do better, not as something that is putting him down. They're not putting him down. They're only expressing their desire for him to do better. That's all.
Yes, but I still went further. I still went further to say, like you say, you cannot read a book from its cover. All right. I think the youth should go further to understand the kind of leadership that they have and to understand that the world, no matter how it is, Basiru on any occasion will have to meet with Macron.
Of
That's a
course.
fact.
Of
In
course.
terms of other negotiations, that's why I said it's not about the criticism now. Now it's very okay. I mean, I was the first person that got my call and say, "You, Papa of Joomaay, of Mr. Faye, come here, come tell us what's happening in that house there." And you had to leave every other thing because it was urgent. I mean, it was a matter of emergency. They're like, "Hey, what's going on?" So, but we have to, like you say, we've just so mistrusted every other thing that probably if we are too, what do I want to say? It will give us it will give us, I don't know, the position of an extremist. You understand? I think, yes, we were shocked. People were shocked, like we never even heard whether there was a press release. But of course, now we know. Now we have to think further. We just don't have to limit it from seeing a picture and a handshake and then
Absolutely.
say, oh, now this is done. Because we
Absolutely.
need to to mobilize the support. But the support is a double way thing. Like my queen Cheryl is saying, hey, these are leaders Africans should, we worldwide should support, should go, not just only materially, but every nation and African that is Pan-Africans has to go in prayers in support of this leadership because it's our time now. Okay? But we
Absolutely.
can also go further.
I agree, Dr. Tata. There are two things, there are two dimensions here, okay? Number one, it is okay to criticize. All I
Yes.
ask people is that don't go to a final conclusion. Make a final attitude towards Joomaay based on one thing. Give time. You cannot just base yourself in an action that you don't even understand the intricacies, what led to it, and make a final judgment. You could express your disappointment. You could express yourself, I wish he did not do it. You could say something like that. I wish that he didn't do it. It could include because you don't know the reason why he did it. I wish he didn't do it. But don't they, that's it now. He is damned. He is a collaborator. That's it. Finished. That will
Exactly.
be an idiocy for somebody to do because it's not insufficient data. You don't understand the reason behind and all of that. But one thing is, I could tell you, there is no African that I know, and I know many of them, in people trying to make Africa better, who is more committed to African sovereignty than my son is. There is none. He is second to none in that. And they could count on that. He will never do anything that could jeopardize Africa regaining its sovereignty, African people regaining their sovereignty, African people taking back control of their destiny in a way. Africa being in charge of where they want to go, at the driver's seat of the implementation and of the policies that they choose themselves. There's no one who is more committed to that. And this is why I tell people in the beginning, those who really want to know where Joomaay is going, go back to Kwame Nkrumah, go back to Thomas Sankara. The same characteristics that you see in those people is what you see in what they will see in Joomaay. Because I know those. I studied Kwame Nkrumah. I live with Thomas Sankara, and my son. I know my son. Yeah, of course. I know the type of person he is. The environment that he grew up with. From his grandfather, father, and myself and others. Yeah, so it's anyone who knows me knows that my commitment to African destiny is unquestionable. So they should know that Joomaay's commitment to African sovereignty is unquestionable, and he will never do anything that could jeopardize knowingly. This is why the criticism are good. Keep him on his toes,
Yes.
but that don't cast him out. Because if you do, then you're doing a favor to imperialism. You're doing a favor to imperialism if you do. And that's bad for Africa and African people.
Yes, I also think, like Cheryl is saying, we have to build trust. The next step of training or encouraging or teaching and mentoring our young people is to actually to move to the next step. Like you said, okay, you don't know, but I would just even I expect him to do that. Honestly, I expect him for those two leaders to sit down and iron out these things. And he tells him in his face, look, and he said it there, we would be meeting to talk about our past relationship. Of course, that's what I expect to happen. Not just to see not happen, because African is not going to function like that. We're not just going to function by ourselves without having, relationships of some kind. But what the young people should hold this leadership accountable is, first of all, build trust in them and know that they will do the right thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, like I said, sometimes also we have to be just a little bit more lenient with our youth. You know, like I said, I show the kind of fraud. A cat that has gone through hot water. A cat that has gone through hot water, hot water was thrown to it. Really, if any liquid is coming towards it, they're oversensitive about liquid. That's the problem. The African youth is oversensitive about African president meeting with French president, or Western president, because time and again they have sold them to these people. You know, yes, it's normal, it's understandable. You know,
It
but
is.
what
It
I'm
is.
saying is that it's okay as long as they don't come to a final conclusion based on such thin data. You know, you want to see more. You want to follow Joomaay. He hasn't been in power for a year yet. If a year from now he is going to bow to Macron, going to bow to Joe Biden and all of that, then there is something wrong. You know, but
Absolutely.
but people have to, and youth is like that. The youth is always impatient. It's impatient. I understand that, but it's the academics. You know, the older generation like myself and you and others. We are the one who have to talk to them and explain to them the uh, the intricacy of being in power. You see, when you're running a state, eh, it's much, much, much more complicated. A whole lot more complicated than what you could ever imagine before you get there. You know, before I get to Burkina Faso, I thought that everything is possible. You know, but when I was there, seeing what is happening, seeing the means that the state have, seeing that the cotton was not being sold, that we had to dig by with our hand to build the road, cut the rocks, in order to build the roads, you know, that we did our plan and we didn't have enough money to execute it. We only have 25% of the resources to implement these plans, you know. I realized that, wow, gee, the state is not as easy as it looks like, you know. It's complicated. If you are a president, number one, you see, if you are a president, Joma has to, and he has learned to differentiate himself as a person and the president of Senegal. You see, his feeling as a person are different than his action as a president in a way. You know, the patience, treading on, walking on thin ice sometime, and all of that. You know, you don't want to. If you are, there are a lot of challenges to Senegalese state right now. Okay, you have to pick and choose what to solve first and what is the priority after the priority. You know, going to France and saying to Macron, no, I'm not coming to your what is it the gain is going to be. You know, the main thing that people have to remember is that he did not go there under the invitation of Macron. Number one. Number two, he did not ask to see Macron. Macron is the one who asked to see him by inviting him, and by the Senegalese teranga, he could not refuse. Macron wanted to see him, you know, contrary to what the journalists are saying. He is the one who really was eager to see Joomaay, to give him, if you see how they're holding, he is actually saying, my goodness, if you leave me, please. He looked like he is begging him not to go. He holding in two hands. Come on, just remember, I'm something like that. Just that position should is telling. Joomaay giving him the other hand, yeah, yeah, calm down, so on. That's fine.
I think it's okay. It's very okay for our young people to be inquisitive because we all taught them that, and we're actually raising them to be that inquisitive, to be curious about happenings, and that's why I really love the energy that they have there. Even though we want to already begin to model that, because it's a two-way thing. It's either yes, I do support, and when you're too emotional, particularly when Africans, we are just that by nature. If we're too emotional, then we might miss even the cake. We might miss the time to build the confidence that we need or the support. We already saw him. I mean, giving a lot of good shots. They just discovered petrol and gas, and that would supply the whole of Senegal in trillions and trillions to come. So I think it's okay that some of those things, but like I say, we have to also build now, move to the young, leadership. And I want to make this very clear again, repeatedly. Pan-African Daily is really going to focus more on the young voices, what they think. Because when they come on the platform and they share their views, it is very easy that they want to learn. And most of them are actually warming up, all the 55 countries and even more. And this is not just for one gender. It's not just for we are trying to pair two and two together, the male, the masculine and the female, so that we can get their perspective from each country and what they think, and not just a single group, but multiple voices going around. Because, like you said, I mean, the system has pushed our young people. They have pushed, they've just, I mean, Africans in general. So if I see that, I also would like, oh, what's happening? But thank you so much, Prof, for shedding so much light. And I think we will still have you on the Casamance question, because we learned a lot of things about Casamance and we could understand the root, the origins, why Senegal has never had these coup d'etats, why they actually are down rooted, in the spirit of Africa by Africans, and like they wanted it to be like that. That's why we see the example of Casamance still today.
Absolutely. I mean, Joomaay is just wanted to say that, the thing of customers, is one of the priorities. It's, there is some, how would I put it? The copycat of the French state was really one of the main reasons why we have the Casamance issue. Let me be a little bit more dilute what I'm saying. The centralization of power, this what we call the Jacobin state. Everything is from the center. The president who nominates everything, governors and stuff. That made it for the Senegalese government to send people to Casamance who were not there, rulers from the will of the people of Casamance.
Yes.
Same thing in Cameroon and others, So, people in a republic, the fundamental thing in a republic is that he or she who manages your sovereignty, whatever portion it is of your sovereignty, must be elected by you or selected by you.
Absolute.
You see, the way that
Correct.
French colonialism was organized, we inherited a state which was a colonial state, okay? A state which was not a republic state, but it was an administration of people who are servant, who are subject. We were the Senegalese. You cannot organize an administration, or you cannot take an administration that administer subject and use it to administer citizens. It doesn't work. It won't work. And that's what we still have in Senegal. This is why Joomaay and them are talking about institutional reforms, because the governor in Casamance was not answerable to the people of Casamance. He's answerable to Senghor or to Abdou Diouf or anything like that, And that was bad. Their behavior, was so reckless that it frustrated more and more the people of Casamance. And some of them treated them as subhumans, really, And that gained momentum, Gambia being in between, is so far, at the end, people who are there under the legitimacy, under the order, or put there by somebody who is so far away from you and is there managing you. So people got frustrated by that, So this is, like I said, the reform of the institution in Senegal, will certainly include things like that, making people who are governed to select or have the people who are governing them, not the other way around, And, I believe that if that is done, it will solve a lot of the problems in there too.
Wonderful. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the lectures. I mean, it's getting more clear, it's getting more understandable, and I see a lot of young people that are watching and listening, and regardless of the content, which is very heavy, political stuffs, or change management, transformation is not something that is actually obvious these days. The internet and all social media is more about entertainment and stuff like that, and people actually don't really pay attention on that. So we really really appreciate your lectures and this input. That I don't want to leave you go without bringing forth this question of this Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso, now Senegal. What do you think? What do you think? I mean, like modeling the others. I think these young people have taken the courage, because taking over a nation as a president is a whole lot of responsibility. Like you're putting your life, not just your life, every other thing. Like you don't have a life, as a matter of fact. So even though we look so like to say there's too much burden, and that is the expectations are too high, and the state which they inherited already had another kind of constitutions, and that to be able to break these things. I mean, how do you see this leadership actually, going through these challenges, and without the support of the African people in every means, in every way? How could you
Well,
say?
I was in Mali recently. That's where I spent Africa Day, May 25,
Mm-hmm.
and I had the chance to meet a lot of people. I had a chance to meet with the Minister of Institutional Reforms. We spent the day together. I had a chance to meet the Prime Minister. We had good conversations and all of that stuff. And I gave him some of my advice. I guess, it may be bad advice, but I gave him some of my advice. Yeah. Susan, it's a it's really a complicated matter, for them. It's a
Yes,
really, really, really a complicated matter.
it
The
is.
state, to inherit a state, you know, which is non-viable, and a state in which people are aware that neocolonialism is really bad for them, you know, and they fed up with it. And you staring the problems, understanding, but by yourself you can't solve them. You have to go with others to solve them. And yet, those others are not necessarily ready, you know, to link up with you to solve this problem. It's a huge dilemma that they're living.
It is.
Even Joomaay, who came to power, through elections, these are dilemmas that they're facing, you know. And we are having conversation. I have to say, I don't want to go into any kind of detail. We're having conversation on how to go about really being able to address these issues and give to African people a little bit of a taste of what unity could bring.
Yes.
You see, just a little bit of history, dial back into history. Americans, yeah, Americans, a lot of people don't realize that the United States of America was not born just like that. There were a federalized, it's a piecemeal federalization that they did first. If you're looking at when they declared independence in 1776, all of the states knew that by themselves they can't fight England, that they have to surrender their power to raise army and run an army to one common entity, which was called the Continental Convention, you know. And they nominated one person to lead that army. It was George Washington, you know. They nominated one person to lead that convention, you know, which is John Hancock at that time. Okay, so they federalized their defense. No state could decide on what will be done. It's only that Constitutional Convention that could decide. No, that Continental Convention that could decide on where the army, what money is going to the army, and all, not and demand every state to bring in what they're doing. So, by fighting for independence, by federalizing their defense, they have come to realize, and gaining independence, they have to come to realize, oh wow, my goodness, there is some interest, there is some, some benefit in federalizing. We gain independence by federalizing. So, when they convened the Constitutional Convention in 1787, 3 years after they gained independence, 4 years after they gained independence, they knew exactly that the way to go is federalize all the other part that the state themselves cannot take care of. Just like the defense during the War of Independence. They realized that. Now, Kwame Nkrumah, when he was asking for federalization, he did not have that on the background. People understanding federalism is good because we saw the result. Kwame Nkrumah didn't have that. Could he have thought of that and think of maybe let's do one money or one thing? I don't know. I can't judge him now. Okay? But if he had gone probably with the one money for everyone, maybe leave you with something else, maybe it would have probably worked, because these people just wanted to be heads of state. Leave them, take something, and demonstrate that federalization is the way for it, and then expand it, as you could see. If he had gone that route, maybe it would have worked, but I can't judge him now. From a hindsight, it's always the vision is 100%, 2020, But what I said to these people, that I met, I told them that there are priorities. Let's say, for example, for you in Mali, Burkina, defense is today a priority. All the way to Sudan. That's a priority. How about studying means and ways of federalizing it? In terms of Senegal, also, money is the priority for them. Everything is ready for the money to be fair. All you have to do is just cut loose friends, because the central banks are already there. Merge the central bank of Central Africa and West Africa, and then you have one big central bank that manages the currency. That inflation will not happen because the heads of state cannot print money like Mugabe who used to print as at will, or Mobutu, or even the Congo right now. You could federalize the money, and it will be more beneficial to us, and we could have a money that will be accepted in the world to pay for our debt and buy merchandises. We could do that. And like they say in French, l'appétit vient en mangeant. Appetite grows as you eat. A meal that tastes good. If people see that on the side of Mali and them, federalizing the security, the defense has made it impossible for terrorists to have any more activities. And on the side of our thing, they've seen that controlling unemployment, and inflation was able to happen, because of that money federalized, then, the rest will come easily. Don't go the big bites. Go small bites. Qui trop embrasse mal étreint in French. When you want to hug too many people at the same time, you could end up not hugging any one of them.
Any of them.
So, these are options that are being studied in a way, in trying to see how these things can pan out, and then we'll see. I'm really optimistic, to tell you the truth. I'm very optimistic, because they have no options but to overcome the problem that they are faced with. They have no options, okay? And if you don't have any option, you're going to have to try many things that look like they could work, All I want is the African academics, because these are one of the problems of Africa. The African academic to propose solutions to these leaders, not to criticize them, give them propose solutions like the Japanese intellectual did during the restoration time in the mid of the 19th century and brought Japan where it is now, like the American intellectual did, when it was time to fight for independence, you know. African intellectuals suggest solutions, stop criticizing, suggest study history of how the others did to make it happen. Don't just criticize, oh yeah, that's it, finish it, done. No. Power, a state is not a joke. Anyone who is criticizing without knowing, having been in a state and managing, seeing people close, managing a state, because it's just fallacy, They have to bring and propose solutions, not solutions that are based on, what do you call it, on rationality, but on reality.
On reality.
Politics, running a country is no rational because there are too many factors that you don't know. You have to be realistic. Just like Georges Clemenceau used to say, la politique c'est l'art du possible. Politics is the art of the possible. When he means politics is running a country, is the art of the possible. It's not the imagination of the fantasy of someone who is only in the theory, Propose solutions to the leaders. Know that they are just us also, but confronted with situation they don't even understand sometimes, They stuck also, these leaders. They stuck. Let's work in proposing things for them.
Yes. But I think, like we say, every leader is chosen. And of course, if I dip my hand to say I want to be a leader of a country, I should be able to know what I'm going through. I mean, we're not trying to say, all right, we don't.
Doctor, I have to stop you there. America had a president called
Yes.
Harding. I was just talking to my family yesterday. We were laughing about it. This guy become president. When he got elected and sat in his office, said, "Oh my God, what am I doing here? I'm not supposed to be here. God bless me. What did I get myself into?" Because he finished his way to the presidency. You see, this is why Winston Churchill said democracy is the worst of the system, so accept all the others. Democracy is a complicated thing. People come to power, they're not ready sometimes. That's how political development happens. You have good and bad, good and bad, good. When I look at America, we have, we have a GT that is a nightmare for us here. I don't want to say the full name, so. How did he get to power? You go figure out, That's what the reality of politics is. You can't have or expect to have perfect people to get to power. It's the people's pressure, constant pressure on them that make them, that determine the direction that they go to. This is why I am welcoming the criticism of Africans on my son. It's good for him. Don't stop criticizing, but don't get to a final conclusion and say that it's finished, done.
Miss Becca, I'm really with you. Then let's get rid of politics. Unfortunately, that's why if we can't get rid of it because of all these things, that's what also the first leaders after post-colonial also thought, how are we going to get rid of this heavy load, this system that was given unto us that we didn't know.
Dr. Susan, Africans are the one who brought to humankind politics.
Yes.
We are the one who brought to humankind politics. How to run a state, how to run a community. Egypt, come on, think of Egypt a little bit. Let's not try to blame somebody else. We're the one who created politics. So.
Yeah, but we created politics in the way of humanity. I mean, if you look at the Bantu
Well,
politics,
I understand all that, but
They
you
have to
know,
kill you to get
everyone
the wealth to do
everyone
that.
does politics. Everyone does politics in light of their cultural values.
That's true.
Once you created a theory, a system, a thing, you know, people adapt it to their culture and utilize it as they want. You know, because of gunpowder, because of germs, Europe was able to dominate everyone of the world and impose their model. The rest of the world has to just say no, Bana, this doesn't match with what I'm doing with my culture. You know, that's all. It's not their fault. It's us who have to do the lift to say, no, this is not how we want to do politics. We want to do it
That's so
in
true.
light of our culture. But
Oh
it's not
yes.
politics itself that is bad. It's just
Mm.
how it is utilized. It's just like, let's say, nuclear energy. Nuclear energy, you could use it to kill hundreds and thousands of people in a second. You could use it to save a whole community, constructing, nuclear power plants and stuff, you know.
Yes.
So it's how it is used, you know.
It is. It is. It's how it is used. So, every other thing, even the political will, or even the policies that Africans also bring, if they don't use it, if they don't put it for the sake of the people or for the love of the people, nothing would work. So it's
But they
actually the
can't. That's the problem. The problem
yeah.
is that they can't put those policies based on the will of the people because neocolonialism is in the way. They could choose their policies, but they don't have the wherewithal, the power, the capacity to implement those policies regardless of what the world think. That's the problem there. Biya could draw all the policies he want. Joomaay could draw all the policies that he want. All of them could draw all the policies, but if you don't have the wherewithal, this is why Nyerere said, without unity, there is no vision for Africa. Because it's good to implement, to write policies, but policies only are good, to the people when they are implemented. If they are not implemented, it's nonsense, useless. It's a waste of time. And as long as neocolonialism, as long as sovereignty will be not in their hand, these policies will be begging the World Bank, just like the Lagos plan. The Lagos plan. We had a fantastic macroeconomic plan at Lagos, you know, but the World Bank came and because Citibank is owed money that it had lent the African countries the wrong way, now we're doing structural adjustment program. Forget about that. And Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, who was one of the central people to implement these policies, came to Liberia to find out, oh my God, we destroyed these countries. So, you know, sovereignty is fundamental. You can't have democracy, you can't have development if you're not sovereign. Because what is happening is your economy, what they call surplus value in economy, is the purpose of colonialism is to take national surplus value from you. And it's surplus value that develops economically a country. If your surplus value is being punctioned and going somewhere else, then there is no development economic. You get poorer and poorer and work like a dog. Nothing else happens, you know.
Hmm. I'm a little bit comforted, and I think all of us here because we're talking to the president of the leader. So if all these things that you're putting here, something has to work, and if something has to
It
work,
will work.
you know the way you raise your son, and now your son is the leader of Africa, and we're talking to a father. If anything goes wrong, that we're going to hold him accountable. And you are saying and saying it again. I know my son.
I just want
I
to
know
I just want to make sure clear. Father from the African culture perspective, but I'm not his biological father. I am
yes.
his father's younger brother. And in African culture, he is my son.
Of course, he did grow
Just
with you.
yeah,
He adopted
of
all
course,
your
yes,
names. I mean, you raised him.
yeah, yes,
We say,
yes, I
Father,
do.
I know.
I cannot say no. Somehow I think that I may have inspired him. I may have.
Yeah, you should have your names, your face, your everything, your intellect is with him. You raised this boy in like I mean your father is yours. I mean in Africa, I don't even know how we do bypass that or even among us. But the bottom line lies in the fact that we are so grateful at least to get an insider, somebody that understands and so the fact that we're confidently knowing that they have a backing, they have leaders that understand, that have seen the ancient African state, the way it was managed, and then the neo-colonial states, and then what we are having now. I mean, what kind of a mixture are we supposed to have now? Because it's like sometimes I like it's more, maybe it's more easy to just dissolve all this modern state. It's maybe very shorter, or bring some kind of mix. I don't know. Like we're just standing in this bubble.
Well, what kind of state do we need to have is a state that is um, made in the image of our how in our culture we perceive a normal relationship between the governors and the governed. You know, those who govern and those. There is in African culture mat. You talk about mat. You know,
That's
we
my
have
new
to,
name.
yeah,
Mat.
mat.
The system of
Mat,
balance.
which is incidentally the same word in Serer. When in Serer we said mat is the governor, the government. In Serer, mat means the government. But mat means somebody who is arrived at the pinnacle of wisdom. Only people who arrive at the pinnacle of wisdom should be leading other people. And the pinnacle of wisdom is understanding that you are a human being, being humble, being able to listen to others and everything. That's the pinnacle. They're not saying to you that you have to be a perfect or anything. Pinnacle of understand wisdom is just understanding that you are just a human being, fallible as everybody else.
Yes.
If you're ruling me, you must know that it's not because you're better than me. It's because circumstances put you there. That's it. Simple. That's what math really is in our. So yeah, what kind of government? It has to be, I guess, first of all, to me, the priority is get rid of neo-colonialism. Really have our sovereignty. Pan-Africanists today must understand that the only and the sole goal of Pan-Africanism is the restoration of the sovereignty of African people, the restoration of the respect that others have for them, and the reparations of the wrongs that were done to them. That's what the goal of Pan-Africanism is. It has always been that. There are many people talking about Pan-Africanism left and right without even understanding what it is. But Pan-Africanism is a sovereignist movement. Pan-Africanism is in its essence, a sovereignist movement. From fighting for the liberation of the slaves to fighting for the independence of the African countries and civil rights of African Americans, fighting apartheid, fighting neocolonialism, Pan-Africanism is about sovereignty and nothing else. People have to understand that. And that's the priority for us today as Pan-Africanists. Let's complete the fight that
What is
has.
sovereignty?
Huh?
What is sovereignty? I mean,
Sovereignty is
young people are they're watching us.
sovereignty. Really,
Yes.
repeat. Sovereignty is number one, the liberty to choose your policy. Policy means, a plan of development, of enhancement of your life, the enhancement of the life of a community. Those are called policies. It could be policies in military, in money, in security, in all of that, in health and all of that. Policies. The liberty to choose your policies, to select your policy, to design your policy, that's independence. Now, sovereignty, you have to add to that independence, liberty to choose your policy, to the wherewithal to implement those policies without whatever the rest of the world think. You have to have the means to implement those policies. You don't depend on somebody else, on the goodwill of somebody else, but on the goodwill of yourself to implement those policies. You know, that's what sovereignty is. Once you get to that point where you have, at least, I mean, because there's nothing that is 100%. There's no one
Yeah.
who is 100%, but at least you get to 75% of the capacity to determine and implement your policies, regardless of what the rest of the world think. Then you technically could be considered a sovereign country, and you don't have that in any of the African countries. You know, and that's what our problem is. We depend on others to implement our policies. That's why when Korea calls, Korea meeting, like a South Korea Africa meeting, what is that so more ridiculous than that? You know, everyone, all Africa meets Korea. I mean, because, you know, our countries are unable to face their problems. In terms of their, the responsibility that comes with sovereignty, you know. And this is what David Job was saying in his poem. We African must be prepared to taste the bitter taste of liberty. Africa, my Africa, where he talks about bitter taste of liberty. That's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about nonsense, anything else. Yeah, sovereignty is that, and we need that. And Pan-Africanism is about sovereignty. Sovereignty, sovereignty, sovereignty. Look at its history from slavery. People who are stripped of all their capacity to decide for themselves what to do with their lives. That's the biggest attack to the sovereignty of the person.
And
And
did that
then,
in Africa.
yeah, and this is done to African people, in slaves and stuff, transformed into slavery, stolen into slavery, Then they went from the individual to the whole country, nations themselves, took all away their right, make them subjects, We were able to get rid of slavery, in the fight and our fight for sovereignty through Pan-Africanism. We were able to get rid of colonialism in a form, but neo-colonialism is here. Jim Crow is still here in the other African countries. And for Caribbean, neo-colonialism is there in Jamaica. Can you imagine that Jamaica is not even a republic? The Queen, if the National Assembly of Jamaica or the Parliament had a problem choosing a leader, Charles is the one who's going to come and say, oh, I put this person to lead you Jamaicans. Can you imagine that still in Jamaica? The land of Marcus Garvey and Bob Marley, still being the head of the state is not a Jamaican. The head of government is Jamaican, but the head of the state is not Jamaican. Can you imagine that? And we don't even talk about all that stuff, It's still the king and of England who is, all of the people talk about reparation. How about owning yourself? We have to go back to Pan-Africanism. The
There's no way
essence
out.
of Pan-Africanism. The essence of Pan-Africanism is sovereignty. The essence of Pan-Africanism is not how African countries are governed by African people. That is not it. All of those Pan-Africans talking about non-governance, democracy, and all of that because they don't know what Pan-Africanism is about. Pan-Africanism is about a restoration of sovereignty, reparation of dignity and respect. That's it. Nothing else. Let's look ourselves into mirrors. And my son is fighting for that. That's what got him to power. That's what his commitment is. Participate in the restoration of the dignity of African people, the sovereignty of African people. That's what he is for,
Yes. No way. No way. Thank you so much, Prof. I mean, really, Stevie, you said knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. Knowledge is key. And like we said, that's why I had to ask you to break it because we have our young people that are learning a lot from Pan-African Daily, and when we start using this kind of political, words, it's nice to break it down for them to understand the two things you said, what Pan-Africanism is all about and the purpose of it. I think we're going to hold a whole lot of lectures on that some other time, but right now, for the purpose of this gathering today, it is well understood, and we absolutely thank you. Thank you so much that we have this support, that we have leaders, leaders that can actually sit down and speak to us like this, because they don't even get to talk to each other or meet experts. They're surrounded with all those. I mean, I cannot even imagine that you have access. I told you, when are we going to see your son? You told me, Dr. Tata, please, just like, yes, because it's just no way. Like, they're going to be hijacked even from you. You understand? Not getting access to that, but we trust the spirit that will raise them up, and we trust the spirit that is existing now for Africa and Africans. We just don't want to just leak. We licked our wounds and we're still licking them, healing. We don't want to touch them again, like the topic of enslavement and all that. It's so painful. Like, we mourned on Pan-African Daily 2021, 2022, 2020, and all that. And now we are about to regain and speak and even laugh and look at ourselves. It was horrible confronting that experience. And yeah, no, even when we're talking about reparations, Professor, for me, yeah, it's just, it would come, it must come at a point in time.
Oh, it
when I
will.
look
It
at, I
will.
like, how much can they even?
It will. It will. It will. But you see, Dr. Tata, you don't ask for reparation from a weak standpoint.
Yes.
You don't beg for reparation. You don't, what do you call it, morally persuade people to repair the wrong that they've done to you. You don't do that. You impose reparation.
Yes.
Give it to me now or else. That's what it is about.
The African wings. I like
you know?
to be now or else.
Give it to me now
We
or
know already.
else. Okay? And we will be able to do that when we have the empire on which the sun never sleeps on, like Marcus Garvey has predicted. And we will have it. At that time, then reparation, before we even ask, oh yeah, you see, we're sorry we did this to you. We want to repair. They want to hush money repair. No. Slow down. We don't want the reparation that fast. We want a detail of the wrongs you've done.
And please give our artifacts.
And we will get the books. Get to the books, and get a reparation, We're not gonna, you're not gonna be at the driver's seat of determining what you owe me. I am gonna be at the driver's seat, not you. And you're gonna go through their, their courts. Yeah, we have to do it's wrong. Who knows better than them that it's wrong? you know,
Yes.
that's nonsense. Let's gain the power. See, Marcus Garvey understood. This is what, and the other thing also. Marcus Garvey, the founder of the the global African unity movement, because many people say Garvey is the founder of Pan. No, Garvey is indeed, or could be counted as the founder of the African Unionist movement. Which link unity to restoration of sovereignty. Garvey was really the first one to really kind of like, yes, there was, the East Africa, the West Africa, planned by, but it's not like to the magnitude that Garvey saw it. But Garvey is the one who understood that it's all about unity. It's all about uniting our states. If we unite our states, then everything else will come after. And that we are grateful to him for that. He understood that sovereignty, will be regained if we unite. And all the reparation, all the thing that we want, will come after that.
Thank you. I mean, I like that fact. That we have to determine what reparation is,
Of course.
not begging and ask them to sit on the table and let's negotiate. When they
No.
met in Berlin, there was no African to negotiate what part you wanted to take and what you took out of it. When they went harvesting slaves, they didn't ask any opinion of how much quantity and how.
Let me just give you an example. If you are on a trial,
Yes.
you are done wrong. Now it's the lawyers of the criminal who will determine the sentence. or, or what was done to you. Isn't it the lawyers of the person who is suing that determine that this is what we want for repairing our things? You know? But you want to let the judges and the lawyers, all of that be on that other side morally because you think that for some reason they have waken up to morally that, oh God, what we did was wrong. They will bankrupt if they do it just like that, you know. And no one is going to be working to bankrupt themselves, you know. The whole foundation of the United States will crumble if you really talk about reparation, you know. You know.
Oh my God, this is so sweet. Like we're here talking about things that they owe our generations. I just cannot even imagine. Like, what are we going to,
I agree with Stevie. Yes, until Africa is fed, the diaspora, because you are not connected right now to Africa. You are connected because that Africa that we're talking about does not exist. There is no such thing as an Africa as a political entity or an economic entity. You have many Africans. You have 54 Africans. And those are all weak Africans. They cannot help you. But a united African state will be able to finally match your identity with your passport. As Peter Tosh said, as long as you're a black man, you are an African. Black woman, we are African. Anyone sees you, say that you are African, but your passport say that you are some other nationality, some other passport, whatever belonging. But, number one, number two, like Malcolm X, no one fears a person. They fear who is protecting that person. If an American goes to India, they know he is an American, they treat him well, or anywhere else. It's not because of the person that they fear. They could just break them there, but they fear of America what will do if they touch. Now, let's get Africa to that level where if you are somewhere in Mars, walking on the street of Mars, that people know, oh, this is an African. If I touch him here, that's it, finished for my whole thing here. My country is going to be in trouble, Then you will see how easy it will be for you to go to Siberia without being hounded like an inferior.
No, but wait a minute, Professor. I mean, Africa already, we were at that. If you look at like in the, I think late 68 to 70s, even after the independence, we had when the Africans realized that what we actually need now to even to be able to get a little bit to where we were was to get a lot of teaching and teachers and education. They understood that. And I could remember even the textbooks that we used, right? Of course, that was now very late. But the first, the storybooks that were written were African oriented at that time.
Some
You
of them.
understand? They already, some of them, or when
Some
I
of
said
them.
right now, just even look at it. But I'm just saying, even with that struggle, at that time, the leaders figure out, they knew that they didn't want a system that was like that. But like you said, if they already come, they chop you into 54. These 54 were not the normal one person that they met. They were not the kingdoms, they were not the chiefs, they were not the elders that were ruling their community like in ancient Africa. These
Yeah.
were other people. So from that period, Africa became something else till today. That
Yeah.
we're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, independence, they were ready to give independence, but not create the condition for sovereignty. Independence, they were eager to do it, But sovereignty, they did everything to break possibility of sovereignty. They either keep you as a small country, like they did when they broke the Central African Republic or the Mali Federation, or they create havoc in your country like Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo, so that, social capital is reduced to almost zero. And development is the product of resources times social capital. If your social capital is near zero, you can't develop. That's what happened to Nigeria, and that's what happened to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And you cannot. Nigeria should be a viable country. The Democratic Republic should be a viable country. But because of social capital destroyed, these are not viable countries. That's why the Naira is not accepted, just like, the yen, causing a serious problem to Nigeria. This is why when I went to Kinshasa last September, trying to pay for my hotel, they asked me, do you have dollars or CFA? I said, what do you mean? I have your money. I said, no, we don't take our money here. We want CFA or dollars, because that money is not trusted, because social capital of that country is zero at the present time. No one could predict because of insecurity, what is going to be the value of the money next year, So those are the intricacies, that the little thing that the West uses to keep us under domination. And African intellectuals, they are too lazy, many of them are too lazy to look at the details of what really, really, really is causing this problem. They cannot take their own money, West Bank. They refuse. When I gave them the money, they refuse. You cannot transfer natural resources to social capital. You cannot make natural resources make Igbos trust Yorubas or Fulani and Hausas. You can't do that. You can't. Has nothing to do with natural resources. Anyway, Doctor, I can't hear you.
Thank you, everyone that is watching, and it's been a wonderful lecture today, and we really have, really, we love you. We thank you so much. I mean, like, when we hear this kind of, inspirations and motivation, not just that, but critical lectures in which makes us think, because we're already at that level where we don't just like, when you trigger us, we're already too high, that we need only high sense. If not, it won't make sense to us. So thank you so very much. It was a pleasure. And we're going to have you again. I mean, we'll talk later to have your program and the processes that you're going through, so that we can have the possibility to have such lectures again.
Yeah, what I just want to say in last, Dr. Tata, is that please keep watching how Bassirou Diomaye Faye is running Senegal. Keep the criticism coming. Make it be constructive criticism. Give him, trust that what you want is what he exactly wants. And he is working every day to make what you want happen. Don't just rush into, throwing him, saying that's it, that's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. He is as staunch a Pan-Africanist and a sovereignist as anyone could imagine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's a great eye opener, like S.X. Smith is saying. Thank you so much, Baba. Thank you. So, like I said, I'll check your calendar, and now if you have any free space, I'm just going to seize you here, because this is the point where we really want to get all of us. We still want to hear voices from Chad, voices from Mali, Burkina Faso. We're still actually going through that process, and in any short time, we'll be able to have them here. Asante sana.
Asante
Thank
sana.
you very much. Jerede. Yes.
Nyokobok.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Good. Thank you, people. And I want to thank us. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you understood this whole shabara that is going online about, President Basiru visiting President Macron. Now we understand the backgrounds, and we're not going to worry or talk about that again anymore. So we'll be moving next to celebrate Juneteenth. Tomorrow we have a Professor Ninana Kweku, an African-American that is actually been on this celebrations. I think he could not come today. That's why I took Professor Joomaay, because of course the breaking, and secondly because he's currently doing a lecture or they're celebrating Juneteenth, somewhere around the state. He's going to tell us more tomorrow. So people, we gather here to celebrate the freedom of our people out there and the entire continent of Africa. So we'll be seeing him tomorrow. Watch out, I might be sharing the flyer tonight or tomorrow in the morning, but anyhow, he has confirmed he's going to be here tomorrow, and we don't have any issues with light and internet coming out from the United States of America. So we hope everything is going to be smooth. So thank you all for being here. Yes. Thank you, Ms. Banker, and all of us. Yeah, we free Sudan, we free Congo, we free Africa, we free ourselves. It's just the normal thing that we have to do. So thank you all. And I wish you all good night. God bless you where you are and your families. And we have to keep praying. We have to pray so much for us and this leadership that we are all in now, for the new energy and the new opportunity that the Creator is giving to us, that God is giving to us by bringing us together. So we thank God so much. We thank you. I thank you and your families. Greetings from my family. My mom is sitting right here in the studio with me and watching, and extend greetings to all of you as well. So to all your entire family, and from mine to you. So good night, everybody. We love you. Bye. See you tomorrow.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want. Unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.